interesting to you at all that that concept of if they're willing to risk their life in military service, maybe they should be granted citizenship? I think you had a very colorful way of saying that, I think, in the attention-getting thing that they're pulling for the ad. But
yeah, I did. Well, somebody thought it was colorful anyway.
Yeah.
But here's the circumstances of this. If they're willing to risk their life, I wonder how many people, how many young men and women that grow up here in Northwest Iowa that volunteer for the military. I wonder if they walk into the recruiter, when they sign on the dotted line, if their hands are trembling a little bit, if they're thinking, I'm risking my life to sign up. They know that there is that risk of being deployed into a theater of kinetic action at some point, but I don't think they see it as, I'm risking my life to do this. They're willing to be put in that position. But here's what goes on when someone who is an illegal alien goes into the United States military. They've broken the law. We don't sign up people to put on the uniform of our country that can't be legally present here, that can't legally walk down the street and walk in and sign up at the recruiter's office. And so what they've done, if they had to lie to get into the military. And then one of the things we ask them to do is take an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And everybody in our military took an oath to uphold the Constitution. So they will lie to get into the military, then they'll take an oath to uphold the Constitution. Well, which time did they lie? If you're going to respect the supreme law of the land, you should have abided by it before you lied to the Department of Defense. And so we would reward them for lying to get into the military with citizenship. I don't think you reward people for breaking the law, and that's why I stand against this. And furthermore, we're downsizing our military dramatically. I don't agree with that. Chuck Hagel announced that about 3 days before Putin invaded Crimea. But we have a dramatic downgrade of our military. It's hard to stay in the military if you're in. It's harder to get into the military because of the downgrade. And so we're acting like somehow we have to have mercenaries in our military because somehow we couldn't fill the ranks of an adequate military with Americans or legal immigrants that are of course, by definition, also Americans. And it's wrong-headed thinking. What they have done is they wanted to pass, first they want to pass this blanket amnesty bill, which is the Senate Gang of Eight bill. That is perpetual and retroactive amnesty. That is, forever anybody that could get into America could stay, and whoever has been deported in the past, there's an invitation to come reapply and come back into America. So perpetual and retroactive amnesty is the policy that they're advocating. Zuckerberg's for that. Bill Gates is for that. Google's for that. U.S. Chamber's for it, as is George Soros. They've all got money behind this thing, and that's what passed it out of the Gang of Eights bill out of the Senate. And so if they're for massive amnesty, and then they couldn't get that passed in the House, so they narrowed it down to the most sympathetic group that they could find, which were the Dreamers. And so I said, wait a minute, stop and think what you're doing, America. And I made some clear comments on that. And if you notice, Dick Durbin, even though every week he went to the floor with posters of his Dreamers on the floor, he quit doing that about the time I made a point of the issue. And he hasn't uttered the word valedictorian into the public record since last July. So that Dreamer initiative got shut down because people looked at it for what it is. And then the Open Borders Amnesty people, these well-funded multi-billionaires, then they looked at it and they thought, okay, well, let's find an even more sympathetic group of the large universe of all illegal aliens boiled down to Dreamers, boiled down to an even more sympathetic group, those that are in the military that put their lives on the line, risk their lives to defend America. Let's see if we can get that passed, and let's see if we can sneak it into the National Defense Authorization Act. And so I and others stepped up to block that. So far, I think we've effectively blocked it. We can't be sacrificing the rule of law because we somehow found an individual or a small group of people who engender such sympathy that we should sacrifice the rule of law. So we just have to think about it, be the age of reason rather than the age of emotional thinking.
I have one more question.